Well, good morning. Thank you all for coming in today. I'm very delighted to get the opportunity today to introduce our SAGES president, Dr. Jeff Marks. Jeff was born February 20th, 1961, to Cookie and Stan Marks. Jeff spent his childhood in Fox Point, Wisconsin, a suburb of Milwaukee. He grew up a Brewers fan and a fervent Green Bay Packers cheesehead, which he remains today. Jeff excelled at school and tennis, despite being dropped on his head as a young child by his only sibling, older sister Harleen. As a young child, he spent his summers at Camp North Star in northern Wisconsin. He loved all the outdoor activities and had apparently expressed an interest in medicine early, as he had a penchant for dissecting frogs. He also loves to dress up and has gifted for juggling many things, being a SAGES committee schedule, or even knives. Jeff played tennis every year growing up during spring vacation at the Doral Country Club with the famous Arthur Ashe, who was the first black man to win not only one, but 3 of the 4 Grand Slam singles titles, the US Open, Australian, and Wimbledon, which is quite an honor. Jeff's tennis skills took him to states in tennis every year, including the semifinals. He went to Vanderbilt for his undergraduate degree, where he was a math major. He then went on to medical school at Tufts. After medical school, Jeff completed a general surgery residency at Mount Sinai Hospital in Cleveland, Ohio, under Jeff Ponsky. This extended into a surgical, laparoscopic, and endoscopic fellowship, and probably kicked off his SAGES career. During training at Sinai, he met a secretary putting herself through school named Gail. They fell in love and got married his chief year. Except for a brief trip back to Wisconsin, Jeff has spent his entire surgical career in Cleveland, most of it working alongside Dr. Ponsky. He's currently at Case Western University Hospitals, where he serves as program director. Jeff and Gail had 3 lovely children. Andrea's now 26, Jamie's 24, and Jared's 22, and they're all here in our audience this morning. They're a very tight-knit family. They love to dress up, obviously, and they love to travel together. Although no child yet wants to pursue a medical degree, he does have 2 engineers and will have 1 Dr. Marks when Jamie completes her PhD in several years. All 3 are very proud of their dad. Jeff particularly loves to travel and visit his surgical friends around the world or even at Lambeau Field. He is a true cheesehead. I've enjoyed sailing with Jeff and the SAGES exec in the Long Island Sound. In addition to his love for tennis, all of his friends know that Jeff is a very competitive runner. He's completed ultra marathons up to 75 miles, the Boston Marathon once unofficially and also officially, and he continues to prove that he's a tough mudder. Jeff has a love for adventure and Disney. He's not afraid to be goofy, and he does love to gamble. He looks for opportunity under rocks and tirelessly takes on challenges. But what we're most proud of is that Jeff has been a major innovator and leader in surgical endoscopy. He has led efforts in training in the practice of ERCP, therapeutic endoscopy, and notes, with over $1.8 million in funded studies. Jeff has published over 100 peer-reviewed publications, and in 2016 was recognized for his achievements as the Jeffrey L. Ponsky Master Educator in Endoscopy, an incredible honor. Jeff has made many amazing contributions to SAGES. He has served on 9 committees, chaired 3 committees, and truly led us the efforts to get FES, which is now required for all general surgeons to qualify for board certification. Jeff has been a fabulous president for SAGES, often making magic as our leader with his endurance, patience, and real skill for consensus building. Most importantly, I see that he's a great friend, and I'm very honored this morning to introduce Dr. Jeffrey Marks, who's the 31st president of SAGES. Thank you.
Well, good morning. I am extremely humbled by this introduction, and I want to thank our President-elect Aurora Pryor for those warm and gracious comments. When I was informed several years ago that I would be serving as the SAGES 2018-2019 president, I was incredibly excited, and I'm so very honored to be standing here today in front of my peers, my friends, and my family. Before I get started, I should state that these are my disclosures, which will not impact my talk, but I will discuss some off-label product use. It is obvious that there are many moving parts in SAGES, and we have grown from a tiny group of motivated and frustrated surgical endoscopists into one of the leading surgical societies championing innovation, education, and patient safety. We are a society of approximately 7,000 national and international members, including gastroenterologists, surgical educators, associated healthcare individuals, as well as general surgeons. We now have over 40 committees and task forces encompassing greater than 800 individual committee members. One of the great honors of leading this organization is the privilege of delivering a presidential address. Now, I recall from day one, 12 months ago, how past presidents Steve Schweitzberg and Dan Jones were continuously asking me, had I prepared my talk yet? As if I was not nervous enough already, hoping that I would not interfere or mess up this finely tuned and intricate machine called SAGES. So when I started thinking about how to organize and present my thoughts at the end of this 12-month tenure, I really felt great anxiety. I did not possess the creativity of a Jerry Fried or a Lee Swanstrom, the charisma of a Joe Beisky or Brian Duncan, nor the oratory excellence of a Nat Soper, Jeff Ponsky, or all the other SAGES presidents who had served before me. So I thought to myself, Jeff, you are going to have to maximize your skill sets for this process, and you need to identify a way that you can best match the great addresses of presidents past. Where are you most comfortable and at ease? And it dawned on me one day while I was out for a morning run in the trails near our house, this is exactly where I do my best thinking, without distraction and with the utmost of clarity. I needed to bring all of you with me on a short, relaxing run. It would be perfect. Unfortunately, Jason Levine, our IT guru, who can do almost anything, could not figure out how we would safely secure the feed into the main ballroom while I was out running on the streets of Baltimore. So we came up with the next best idea, and with the help of Sally Matthews and her magical BSC crew, and with a quick equipment change, I will be able to find my comfort zone while presenting my presidential address and still bring all of you with me. Okay, here we go. Now, for those of you that have never seen a SAGES presidential address, I don't know how commonplace it is for someone to be up on stage on a treadmill running. Now, we have had presidents come in on a bull, on a horse, or even a military helicopter. And what they all have done in this brief 30-minute snapshot at the end of a 12-month tenure is to leave their everlasting mark on this incredible and unique surgical society called SAGES. That's their privilege, and that's their goal. Wait a second. I think there might be something really wrong with what I'm doing right now. So I'm running, but I'm not getting anywhere. Now, John Gould, you know I could do this for another 30 minutes. That's not the problem. But this is like the antithesis of SAGES, where every new idea sparks a new innovation, a new task force, a new committee, and the only way we've ever known, despite the hurdles in our path, is forward. Sally, thank you for getting me this prop, but I just don't think it's working the way I thought it was. I have a passion for running, but I don't think this is the right way to do it. But we can still talk about passion, and maybe that's what we should, because that's what's the heart of all that we do. But what is passion? How do we define it? How do we know what it is? Is passion a flower? Is it a fruit? Is it a place we have been raised? Or a sports team that we love? Or is it a feeling in our lives for those people we want to watch grow and share in their successes and achievements? When we see a definition of passion, there are many different emotional and interpersonal examples. Passion can be described as an outbreak of anger, as in a crime of passion, or as an ardent affection, or as an object of desire. But what I really think is at the heart of all that we do is the final definition: a desire for or devotion for some activity, object, or concept. As quoted by Aldous Huxley, the author of Brave New World, and one of the true great intellectuals of the early 20th century, nominated 7 times for the Nobel Prize in Literature. I want to know what passion is. I want to feel something strongly. And when we look at our mission statement, I think our SAGES forefathers also felt the same way. Although they didn't use the word passion specifically in the statement, it was definitely evident that they had the passion to provide the best patient care at all costs and to assure that all of us would do the same. So let me take you back several decades to a time when the gastroscope and the colonoscope were delegated predominantly to our medical peers, and the term surgical endoscopy was equated with career suicide. And then there was a band of brave soldiers who carried their flexible endoscope on their belt, not so much as an act of contempt, rivalry, or conflict, but one of foresight into the future of surgery. These endoscopic zealots, as they were referred to by other surgeons, became the cornerstone of SAGES. Not so much outcasts, but rather people who wanted to build something that others could not see. SAGES became a home for people who wanted to change the future of GI surgery. And along this line, by mere luck and good fortune, a video poster was presented by Dr. Jacques Perissat at the SAGES annual meeting in 1988, documenting this novel new procedure termed laparoscopic laser cholecystectomy. The SAGES leaders were enthralled by this presentation, and laparoscopy now had a new home in SAGES. And although in their in their hearts, these early SAGES leaders were merely hoping to provide an avenue for better patient care, I am not sure they actually could ever foresee the passion that so many others around the world would also have in these burgeoning fields of endoscopy and minimally invasive surgery. I would highly recommend all of you taking a few minutes to watch the fantastic video on this history of SAGES narrated by Tonya Young-Fadak. It provides a wonderful series of interviews with the original founders of SAGES and some of their insight into their inspiration and passion. So I'd like to take a step back now and briefly talk about my own personal voyage into these fields of flexible endoscopy and minimally invasive surgery and the series of fortunate events that helped define my career and ascent through life and through SAGES. So one of the first in these series of fortunate events was the happenstance matching into a general surgery residency program in Cleveland, Ohio. And I will give a quick plug here and welcome all of you and everyone for SAGES 2020 to Cleveland next April. Anyways, okay, back to my story. I had known that I wanted to be a surgeon, but really had mixed feelings whether I wanted to do orthopedics or general surgery. So I interviewed for both, and I ranked them both on my categorical list, intermingling them in my match list. I figured somewhat naively that I would open the envelope, and however it turned out, this would determine my future. Well, we know that this all worked out, and I got incredibly lucky in going to Cleveland and meeting my future wife and starting a family. But I will talk about this a little bit later. With this fortunate event, I also fell on the doorstep of my lifelong mentor, a gentleman named Jeffrey Ponsky. Now, following residency, Jeff Ponsky offered me an opportunity to stay on with him and do his endoscopic and laparoscopic fellowship. I was also incredibly honored to receive an education award in his name from SAGES 25 years later, as well as being named the Jeffrey L. Ponsky Professor in Surgical Education at my home institution. He really was my fairy godfather, waving his magic wand over me and my career for many years. So over this 6 years of incredible training with Jeff, he instilled in me a passion for 2 things. One was the importance in all aspects of life to provide a structure for education for those around us. The other passion Jeff instilled in me, more simply, was the value in a simple medical tool called a flexible endoscope. Little did I know that this experience and training would prove to be the stepping stone for my involvement and advancement in a little fledgling surgical society founded on the practice of flexible endoscopy. Truthfully, I'm really not sure why I felt such passion for flexible endoscopy, but from the beginning, it became the center of my clinical practice and research endeavors. Whether in the operating room or in the GI lab, I greatly enjoyed the innovative practice of combining surgical and endoscopic interventions to benefit patient care. Now, many great physicians had advanced knowledge individually of surgery or individually of gastrointestinal endoscopy, but it was less common to have knowledge of both. And through the collaboration and integration of these 2 medical disciplines, I found unlimited avenues for research and clinical investigation over the past 20 years. There are always many clinical problems following surgery that cannot be fully managed by more surgery. Here with Eric Pauli, when he was a fellow, we took what was available for endoscopic practice and tried to apply it more broadly in innovative ways to manage patients with complex GI fistulas. And then I wanted to impress upon SAGES how flexible endoscopy remained a vital part of GI surgery. I recall being at many program committee meetings, sitting next to Scott Melvin, who was holding my arm down, but always wanting to ask and implore the powers that be to add a flexible endoscopy session or a panel or even a hands-on course to the annual program meeting. In 2000, Jeff Ponce then came up with the idea to have all of his prior fellows convene together in a breakfast club fashion to discuss their flexible endoscopic research efforts and future clinical opportunities. By 2002, we were a flexible endoscopy task force. And then in 2004, we were designated to be the Flexible Endoscopy Committee. It is somewhat ironic that an organization created originally on the premise of enhancing surgical endoscopy 25 years later would create a new Flexible Endoscopy Committee. Regardless, I was very excited. And I felt like Austin Powers, having been frozen for these 25 years and now being thawed out to help fight for this new flexible endoscopy revolution. Over the next 14 years, SAGES would dramatically change the structure of flexible endoscopy training for surgical residents and fellows through the creation of the Fundamentals of Endoscopic Surgery program and the Flexible Endoscopy curriculum. It was an incredible body of work requiring tens of thousands of hours by many great volunteers from this organization, some who unfortunately succumbed to these arduous efforts. Now, I have also been very fortunate to have been provided an opportunity for the other great passion that has so greatly defined my career, and that is education. At my home institution, I was able to impact minimally invasive and endoscopic surgical education for both residents and fellows. This has, through the years, been my favorite reason to go to work. However, to be a successful teacher, one must have motivated and energetic students. And I have been so very fortunate over the past 3 decades to have individuals willing to listen to me intently and adopt these skills. They have all made it so very easy for me to be passionate about education. So as I prepare to pass the torch to the younger, stronger, and more talented Dr. Aurora Pryor, I'd like to reflect on some of the highlights of this past year in SAGES. Many of these are the continuation of projects initiated by our prior presidents. 2 years ago, past leadership set out to strengthen the structure of our educational offerings. I continued this charge with an eye on unifying and streamlining the delivery of our content. Later this year, the project will culminate with the implementation of the SAGES Organization-Wide Learning System, or OWLS. OWLS will transform the way you search for, enroll in, and view SAGES online learning activities and self-assessments. Gone are the days of remembering more than one password and navigating to multiple sites to find the knowledge you need. With the advent of OWLS, www.sages.org becomes your portal to online learning. We are incredibly grateful to Dr. Pon for his multiple generous donations over the years, and to the SAGES Foundation for also funding OWLS. Through this transformative gift, SAGES will deliver FLS, FES, FUSE, hernia, and safe cholecystectomy programs to members and non-members at the click of a button, and will onboard upcoming and future programs like the Master Series quickly and efficiently. The next highlight of the year I would like to relate was the creation of the Educational Council. Last summer, I tasked Matt Ritter to work with the other educational leaders in the society on a recommendation to overhaul the management of SAGES educational offerings. The end goal was to develop a structure that facilitated clear communication between all of the SAGES groups and activities involved in education, along with an overarching strategy for creating and implementing and evaluating and maintaining our educational activities. Chaired by Dr. Ritter and with his co-chairs, Drs. Jim Korndorfer, Michael Awad, Denise G., Jake Greenberg, and Carmen Mueller, the new Education Council will also include in its membership the chairs of partner committees, such as Educational Resources, Fundamental Committees, and the Resident and Fellowship Training Committee, as well as those affiliated with the SAGES Master's Program Development. SAGES First Vice President John Mellinger will serve as the liaison between the Education Council and the SAGES Executive Committee. Next, in case you don't have a good cellular data plan or have been living under a rock since August, SAGES has updated the look and feel of the website for the first time since 2013. We have dropped the old gray look for a newer and more refreshing blue and white look and theme that is much more mobile friendly. There was also a huge behind-the-scenes effort to clean up the site code, both to remove outdated features and functions, and optimize what remained to provide us with the infrastructure and opportunity to create exciting new systems for SAGES members. Now, every year the SAGES president convenes a leadership retreat and a board meeting in November. Several exciting new initiatives were proposed last fall, and I would like to describe what I think was most noteworthy. One of the main discussion points, which we spent a good part of a day debating, was what is the next big thing in surgery, and how can SAGES remain on the cutting edge and lead future surgeons? Artificial intelligence, machine learning, and computer-assisted surgery were identified as the most likely future innovations to impact surgery. Along with the newly formed AI task force led by Dr. Oz Morales, Dr. Chris Schlachta was asked to lead a technology council in the coming year. Similar to the Education Council, the Technology Council will allow SAGES to develop a process or structure that allows SAGES to be continuously vigilant and prepared to foster and safely translate transformative computer-assisted surgical technologies. Representatives from AI, advocacy, alternative funding, the Education Council, ethics, guidelines, oncology, pediatrics, quality outcome safety, research, TAVIC, and the subject matter pathway groups under the master's program have been invited to join. Now stay tuned, as this new group will have more to report in coming months. Over the past 2 years, the SAGES board and executive leadership has also given great thought as to who SAGES is. Who are we? What are the characteristics that define the society and drive our activities and initiatives? Dr. Dana Tellem and the We Are SAGES committee have done extensive work surveying the membership and clearly defining our core values. Moving forward, we're asking every committee and every member to hold their projects and interactions up against these values. At the November leadership retreat, we took this concept a step further to ask, what does the SAGES brand stand for? To current and prospective members, and to surgeons around the world, to trainees, to our partners in the OR, and in education, and to our industry supporters, to all of us, for all of us, who is SAGES? In the coming months, we will continue to promote the SAGES brand. I hope you will support and extend the message to all whom the society could benefit. So one of the common things that we all share while we are away is a group of people back home supporting us and allowing us to step away from the routines of our regular lives, both at work and at home. I first want to formally recognize several individuals who are my work partners and my friends, many of whom you know very well. Drs. Lena Kaitan, Mujahidi Bilas, Sharon Stein, Emily Steinhagen, and Ray Anders, and my new partner, Ryan Yuza, who I feel so very fortunate to have added to our team. My office support team are also here today, and many of you have met them as well. My assistant, Tamika Randall, and nurse Nicole Boland. Without them, I'm in complete and utter chaos, and with them, I'm always at peace and with a smile. Thank you very much to you both. And with the growth in SAGES, which I described earlier, so grew the requirement for a skilled, dedicated, and hardworking staff to help bring our ideas and concepts to reality. All year long, and culminating in this fantastic annual meeting, there is a team of dozens of people providing the administrative and management support unmatched by any other society support system. I want to recognize Jessica, Jillian, Jason, Ed, Inga, Linda, Shelley, Carla, Brenda, Vanessa, Carrie, Betty, Robianne, Colleen, Michelle, Dan, Evelyn, Shannon, Lauren, another Lauren, and all the other amazing SAGES staff. At the center of all of this is someone referred to as an executive administrator, Sally Matthews. Now, I'm really not sure what executive administrator means. And as there really are no words to describe Sally's overall contributions to this organization, I decided to look it up in Merriam-Webster dictionary under Sally, okay? And here was the definition. Sally was defined as a rushing or bursting forth, an outburst, a quip, or a jaunt. That didn't quite make sense, so I decided to look it up in the long-lost SAGES archives, and here's what I was able to find. Sally was defined as professional, all-knowing, politically correct, and the one who keeps the person in power from screwing everything up. Now, it has been a great year for me to be able to work beside her, and it immediately becomes apparent readily that everything that we have achieved as a society has been dependent upon Sally and her team, and for this I'm incredibly thankful. Now, one member of this fantastic team, which I want to recognize now, who is no longer with us, is someone who I'd known and who supported me since my very first day of joining this organization when I was at a resident course in Cincinnati. Now, Barbara Bursey was a figure bigger than life, and I'm very saddened that she could not be here to guide me during my presidential year. Now, to honor the legacy and memory of Barbara, who was the founder of the SAGES Foundation, the Barbara Bursey Memorial Award has been established by the SAGES Education and Research Foundation. To donate now, text SAGES to 91999 and follow the link to donate. Now, like many of you, I can still hear her voice in my head, and I know exactly right now what she would be saying. Jeff, just shut up and get on with your presidential address. Barbara, thank you. I am still listening. So SAGES is the second largest surgical society representing general surgery, and the energy that drives our organization is the 7,000 members, candidate members, and associate members, and I want to recognize and thank you. Many of you have become my lifelong friends, and for this, I am forever grateful. The work that we do requires people who can dedicate their time and have a passion for moving the needle forward in education and innovation. This includes 820 members of 42 committees, 45 board members, and the 7 individuals that make up the executive committee. Their hard work and efforts constitute a year-long commitment, and I am incredibly thankful for their input and their guidance. I want to especially thank 2 people, John Gould and Pat Silla. This year's program chairs, who I've been so lucky to have put together an incredible meeting with a robust collection of innovative and inspiring educational sessions delivered by world-class faculty, and I very much appreciate all of their hard work that has gone on for the last 12 months. I have had numerous mentors throughout my time working with SAGES who have provided words of support and wisdom, as well as providing lifelong friendships. I feel incredibly fortunate and humbled to be able to call many of these people my friends and peers, as they are not just SAGES leaders, they are nationally and internationally recognized surgeons in the field of general surgery. I could truly call all of these past presidents and board members my spearheaded and my guiders, but I would like to specifically call out as special mentors for me Ken Ford, George Bursey, Jerry Marks, Jerry Freed, Lee Swanstrom, Dave Ratner, Nat Soper, Joe Beiske, Bruce Shermer, Brian Duncan, Mike Brunt, Scott Melvin, and Jeff Ponsky. Thank you for all of your support. I would finally like to thank and recognize my family. My parents, Cookie and Stan, who have always been incredibly supportive, are in Florida. And although they could not make the travel to Baltimore, I know that they wish they all could meet you and share some more embarrassing stories of my childhood. I am very thankful of their lifelong support and guidance. My own family is very small and includes just my aunt and uncle Diane and Richard and my sister Harleen, pictured here with her husband Willie and her son Alex. But I've been very fortunate to have been added to Gail's family as a welcomed outsider. And I include Gail's uncle, sisters, cousins, nephews, nieces, and great-nieces as my own. And for this, I feel incredibly lucky. Finally, what can I say about Gail and our three fantastic children, Andrea, Jamie, and Jared? Gail and I have been together for over 30 years, and she has always been 100% supportive of my academic aspirations, despite the incredible impact it had on my time away from family. Gail is the brains of this operation, as you all well know, as well as the glue that holds us all together. And for this, I'm incredibly lucky and thankful. Our three children have grown into established, hardworking adults, and they bring me such pride that I could talk about them all day long. They all have big brains, but more importantly, they all have big hearts. I think they also have big livers. I can show you some of our bar bills, okay, from when we were all together. Watch out tonight at the sing-off. So as I come to a close on this address and the sun starts to set on my presidential year, I would like to leave all of you with one lasting thought and comment. Find passion in what you do in your career, so that it is more than just showing up for a job. Share it with the ones you love, and don't be afraid to stand up for what you believe is right, even if it goes against the norm. Life is too short to merely coast along without finding some joy in jumping over these hurdles. And even if you fall on occasion, at least you will have worked towards achieving your own defined personal success. As Confucius said, choose a job you love, and you'll never have to work a day in your life. Thank you very much.